Dr. Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me as we go through our Founders video series. I am excited to be here and talking with you about Global Assist and who we are and what we do. And today we are going to take some time and talk about our global ministry partners. And they are why we exist. So I think it's an awesome topic for us to just dive into. Why don't you talk a little bit about a global ministry partner, what it is, and what their role is?
It's a term that we coined. We call them global ministry partners, but it is a partnership, but yet Global Assist is more of a servant organization. We're here to help them. And what a global ministry partner is, and this is very important that everybody understands, that God has supernaturally intervened in human history and has touched the hearts and called and raised up leaders, ministry leaders around the planet. We know now over 2,000 and counting just within the last 20 to 25 years. It's that recent, where God is raising these independent ministries in all over the planet. It's like a blanket around the planet. We are well aware of this phenomena that God has created. And so each one of those leaders has independently, called by God, created their own ministry because their vision is to reach their people, their unreached people groups in all these parts of the world where the name of Jesus has never been heard by most of the people. That's why we call them unreached regions. We're talking upwards to 4 billion people on this planet. They are independently reaching and created a ministry. That's what we call a ministry partner. They are a full-fledged ministry. Mm-hmm. They have their own church planters, which are their own people amongst their own people groups. It's their culture, their languages, wherever they are at. This is what uniquely is happening as well. The West, we didn't have to go in and train. We didn't have to go in and call or find people. God did that work. They're there. And more are happening all the time. If you're going to reach 4 billion people, there has to be a lot of these. God's doing that. What God then is in this whole strategy, He knows that what can we provide from the West that will propel and will help these ministries. And that's what we call a global ministry partner. And that's what Global Assist, we know God's called us to be that fuel, that propellant, to help them as a consultant coach, to be better at an organization, help them have better leadership with their leaders so they can be more effective. We help them in putting together strategic plans for their ministry.
Right.
Go for the next 3 years, 5 years. Can we help it? We make them better like a consultant would,
right,
so they can do their work at a higher, more efficient level. We've got a lot of people to reach on this planet, and they're doing it. We're just going to help them, and that's what God's called us in the West to do.
He has, and so I love talking about our global ministry partners. I think it's such a cool. When you really learn about the impact that they're having, and not only are they out there making disciples, building new churches, creating house churches, but you and I both know Jesus changes lives. So our ministry partners are so much more than but working in creating disciples. They're changing their communities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a great role that they are fulfilling that we sometimes overlook. Each one of our global ministry partners, every single one of them, as they are and their teams are planting churches, creating disciples, changing lives, those lives then are human. And those lives are being developed and discipled, but they have all the human needs that we as humans have. And so they are also, these partners, these ministries are doing work on humanitarian levels, human levels. They address issues within their communities. So it is transformative, even amongst those communities, to be able to help on children's issues and some of the awful things we see in the sex trade and all that going on the planet. Our partners, they feel their calling. They're working to change those things, but those are adjuncts alongside of their core reason for being, and that's to take the gospel through the regions and create disciples.
They are. And, I'm just going to take a quick second. And there's a story that just came through, as I work through the story side of it. There's an unreached people group, and I'm not going to name countries or anything, but a highway was put between their two sides of the village, of a group of people that this one partner has been trying to reach. And the wrong side of the village didn't have a well, and they were walking across this highway, and kids and families were being destroyed because people were being hit by cars and losing their lives. And our partner put in a well on the other side and is now able to reach an unreached people group by just providing water. And not only did they improve that community, but that community now is embracing the love of Jesus because they are exemplifying working in areas where other people don't dare to go or don't want to make a change.
Absolutely. The human side of things to the unsaved world is critical. To be able to help take care of some of their and address some of their needs and issues of just daily human life, those, as we all can understand, open up doors. You go, even as an indigenous native that is in your own culture, when you go into a community and you're there to share Jesus Christ, having doors that you can open that make you more even relevant to that unsaved world, that unsaved community, just facilitates then the ability to be able to share Jesus and to create disciples and plant house churches. And we must remember these ministry partners as well. I just said a word. This movement around over the planet is house church based. Think about it, Amanda, as what we all know in the West has happened in China. With the underground, we call it the underground church. This is really what's going on around the planet. These are small local bodies of people, usually 2 or 3 families that come together, and that's a house church. That's a church. And they develop all the abilities of what a church does, but these are hundreds of thousands of these being planted around the world, and that's the work of the people that we call our global ministry partners.
So how do we find and select what global ministry partners we choose to work with or that choose to work with us? Talk about that process.
And it is a process, and we are very careful on who we would bring on board as a global ministry partner. We think God's going to bring us alongside of hundreds, if not 1,000 of these global ministry partners within the next 20 years. But we're very careful about it because, as you can guess, there are dangers in the world too. There's always false ones that are being developed, or that there are in those countries where somebody senses that there's some money somewhere. They will have false ones. So we do a very thorough vetting process. It's a 5-step process that we do, and we are introduced. God helps facilitate, and we've got a pretty vast network of other ministries around the world that are doing other things, that we're introduced by word of mouth or direct referral to potential global ministry partners. So we first vet them very carefully, do our due diligence. Once we're pretty sure that this is a candidate, then we will agree to, between us and that potential partner, and sign a memorandum of understanding so that both sides know what could be in the future. Then we begin our process of analyzation. We do a deep dive into who they are. We've got a multi-level step of doing our due diligence. And when we are satisfied and that's completed, if they truly are a great candidate, then we will engage with them as a new global ministry partner. And that's when we start to provide our tools that we call our toolbox, our helps, and some of our financial resourcing to help them individually. And then we just don't do that and we're gone. As you can hear, we provide relationship. We build strong relationships with each one of our partners. We help them ongoing. We're here to stay with them for the long haul.
Yep.
We want to see them continue to grow and succeed, and that's what our job is to help propel them.
Yeah, and so as we're talking about it, so obviously we go through this in-depth process. We bring on a new global ministry partner, but the other side of this is we need to see results. So how does that look? What and how do we get that information, and what kind of impact? And obviously we want to support ministries that are impacting multiplication. So talk about that a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, because one of the goals of the foundational goal is multiplication. You know, it isn't just, we're not coming alongside a single ministry. That ministry has to have the DNA of movement, of multiplication. Otherwise, we'll never reach the planet. They'll never reach their region or their country if they're not multiplying churches and disciples. So but how do we know? We help them with the strategic plan to set goals. But then we will, and they know it's part of our understanding that they give us information. We'll say reports, but they give us information and we monitor. We are in constant communication with each one of our global ministry partners, with our team and our leadership team. And we work with them. We get the reports and monitoring. As a coach, we help make them better by asking the questions about, have you looked at this? What about this? You know, and we ask the questions so they think through and therefore can become even better at what they're doing. So it's quite a process with them, and that's what God's called us to do, and we're excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, and with that, the results, the multiplication that we kind of talked to, there's also an accountability there too, as well, isn't there?
When you build relationships like we are, I mean, our teams, we talk to them, each one individually, on a monthly basis, if not every other week. A newer one, we'll talk every other week for a while and work through things with them, get to know them better, but we stay in constant communication. And we're there. We have our own people that are on the ground there, they're not shipped in from the United States.
No.
We have our leadership teams, we call them relationship directors, that are there working with our global ministry partners. We know them intimately. We know everything we know their finances. We know what they're doing, what's being accomplished. We get the reports. We just work with them. So, you know, what's important about that is that as we build this network, we become a very valuable credibility. We provide that accountability, credibility to our global ministry partners.
Yeah.
We can turn then into the United States and to us here that have the resources. We can be a great partner to assure our investors that are investing in kingdom work,
right?
That the funds that they're investing and the resources that we're investing are going appropriately and being used appropriately. We're there constantly, all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to hit on is working directly with these partners.
And there's no agencies in between us.
Right, but the other thing is we also provide a bridge between investors and our partners so that everybody stays safe. In multiple different arenas. You know, we have partners that are working in really dangerous areas, and so, you know, we're able to protect their information, and we have investors that need to, you know, to know that they will be protected as well. And so we provide that great middle ground.
Yeah, we call today's world, we call all of us that are used to be donors. It's more than a donorship. It is. What we're all looking for is, how can God use our resources, our financial resources, to invest in the kingdom? There should be investment, there should be return that we see, and that's what you're asking about the reports. We manage and know what's happening. We can show change that's occurring. That's the impact. That's the impact that we can bring back, know it ourselves, and share with our investor partners that it is impactful, and there is making a difference, and it's ongoing, and we'll continue to always do that so that everybody knows what's happening. And and we're the link. We provide that facility.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, we haven't finalized all of our numbers, but I think it's really cool to look at. I know in 2022, over 200,000 people heard the gospel just through our, at the time,
Exactly.
12 partners. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking huge numbers. Thousands were baptized.
Absolutely.
Thousands of churches have been started, and so that impact, that multiplication that we talk about is there.
Absolutely. Churches are planted, lives, people come to Christ, they're discipled, they collate and create small churches. Those churches continue to grow, they multiply. We see it's called generational. Not only do church planters help individual people come to Christ, but as churches develop, these churches, they're amongst their own people, they multiply. And so we see a spread, and it's just exponential that it can go across the world. God knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does. He does. It's such a blessing.
This is the effective paradigm shift that we've talked about earlier in another video. It's happening, and we're so blessed to be a part of it. In the West, we have a critical role, and that is to be a helper, to be a servant helper to these ministries that God's raised, so they can be even highly more effective at what they're doing, and we can propel them. That's what we're called to do in the West now. We're not called to send our people into these areas of unreached. It takes too long, it's too expensive in today's world. God knew that. He's raised these ministries up to reach their own people. We're here to help that.
Yeah, and I love that. I love talking about our partners. I want to take some time and just say thank you so much for your time today.